Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. So today we're going to dive into the real 11 material, adding subtracting actual rational expressions, not just fractions. However, let's take a moment to just kind of review what this looks like. So, level 0 problem, non-algebraic. If we're just dealing with numbers, let's see what happens. Well, remember, the denominator ends up staying the same. So because we have 8 and 8, we just leave that 8 and just perform the operation in the numerator, 1 plus 3. The key here is to remember, if what you get can be reduced, do it. So 4 over 8 is really just 1/2, okay? So don't be afraid. You must reduce if what you get is able to be. So our next one, notice you have the same denominator, so I'm just going to put that right away. 4 minus 7 is a -3. And again, this can be reduced. Both top and bottom can be divided by 3, so we end up with a -1/3. All right, now a level 1 problem. This is now incorporating monomials in the denominator. Now notice, 2x and 2x, all right. We have the same thing down there. 3 plus 5 on top, that's going to give us 8. Now, looking at this, notice 8 divided by 2. 8 divided by 2 is just 4 over 1. So don't forget, when you can, you must reduce. All right, looking at our next one. Again, notice our denominators are the same today. So we have x there. Now, 5 plus x minus 5. All right, so looking at that, 5 minus 5, doesn't that just cancel off? We're just left with x over x. Well, what is anything divided by itself? Well, anything divided by itself actually just becomes 1. So that's how we fully simplify that one. We actually get something really, really nice. Now, moving on to the next step. So, level 2 difficulty problem. So here notice the denominators are the same. So we can just repeat that 2m minus 3. But now notice, with that minus, be very careful with how you're subtracting. What I would do is I'd put parentheses there, and then just like before when I taught you to kind of distribute that negative throughout, I would actually do that. So you remember that you are subtracting those things. So you really get minus a 3m minus a 1. So when you get that, negative 3m, 7 minus 1 is 6. And then the bottom doesn't change. So again, be very careful when you're subtracting that you're using those parentheses and kind of putting that negative throughout, that you're remembering that parenthesis or that negative distributes throughout. Looking at these harder ones. Now again, luckily, we still have a common denominator. So that 3x squared, minus x, minus 2 stays. Now again, we're subtracting, so I'm going to be really careful. I'm just going to put that throughout there. So I'm going to have 7x plus 5, and I'm going to actually write out minus 4x minus 3. So when I'm combining my like terms on top, 7x minus 4x leaves me a 3x. 5 minus 3 leaves me with a plus 2. Then the bottom, we have our 3x squared minus x minus 2. Now, something I want you to notice about that bottom, that is a quadratic trinomial. So I want you to be very careful when looking at that, because you need to remember sometimes to reduce these, you're going to need to factor. All right? So for this one, it can actually be reduced. That bottom ends up factoring. And remember, quadratic trinomial means two parentheses. And again, the factoring is something that you should have down by now, that you should know. So I'm not going to spend time reviewing the factoring. I'm expecting that you know how to get that. All right? But the point is, when you factor it, now you can see you can cancel something on the top and the bottom. Okay? So by doing that, I have nothing left on top. When you have nothing, you can just put a 1 there. Then you have an x minus 1. So again, the key steps to these ones that we're doing now, these level 3 type problems, is the fact that you are now having to also factor. Now, I'm going to erase this, so if you need to finish writing down, make sure you pause the video now, because I am going to erase this, because I'm going to need some additional space for this next one. So this next one, again, we need the same denominator, which today we have, and then the numerators we add. So x squared plus 4x. Now, notice both of these only have two terms. And notice on top, my variable is in both of my terms. So for the top one, I'm going to notice I can pull out that x, and I'm going to be left with that x plus 4. On the bottom, notice I can pull out a 5, and I'm going to be left with an x plus 4. So once you factor those, now you can see x plus 4, x plus 4. So all you have left is an x divided by 5. That is going to be your reduced fraction, your reduced rational expression. Our last one for the day. Again, notice our denominators are the same. The x minus 4 squared, so we can just leave that. And notice on top, we are subtracting, so we're just going to get that. Now we're going to notice that top is a quadratic trinomial. So quadratic trinomial means it's possible that it can be factored. So you should check to see if it can be. And again, I'm not going to spend time going over factoring. That's something that I assume you already know. So when you see that, you should be able to see you're getting 2x and x. To get that negative 4, you should be using 1 and 4, but realizing one of those will have to be negative. So the right combination is going to be 2x plus 1 and an x minus 4. On the bottom, what I want you to recognize, the x minus 4 squared is really just giving you 2 of those x minus 4s. Cool thing about that is now you can slash off one of the pairs and you end up being left with 2x plus 1 and x minus 4 to end your problem. So, thank you so much for joining me. Please make sure you have all of this written out and you come back to class prepared to begin our practice work.